Spoilers ahead. Watch out, and take care. The movie begins with two police officers, Tony and Juan. The cops are on their way to the spot where illegal substances are manufactured and traded. Juan joyously informs Tony on the way, he will soon become a father, his wife is pregnant. Tony is overjoyed for his friend. They arrive at their destination, and Tony asks Juan to simply wait in the car. He goes to ambush the people there with the help of other police officers. The cops round up and remove the people one by one. Tony notices there are still a few people in the room. When he enters the room, he finds a dealer conducting a transaction with a woman, and a large man is escorted by the police. The huge man's comfortable demeanor appears to make the police escorting him out reckless, prompting the man to attack and grab the police gun, in order to get out of there. Tony attempts to pursue him. Outside, Juan is talking on the phone with his wife. When he sees the big man running away with a gun in his hand, he seems surprised and unprepared, and attempts to block him as well, but the man is considerably better prepared, and fires multiple shots at Juan, killing him instantly. In the end, the big man runs away. Tony, who observed the incident, is heartbroken and enraged, as he lost his partner and best friend while on duty. Moving on, an elderly man named Nick is relaxing, sunning and enjoying his twilight on a ship. Nick is a former assassin, who has always worked for the government, and is now retired. Soon, he is visited by an old buddy. The man is a government employee who comes to offer him a job. He offers Nick a job as a government contract killer. His target is designed to harm the American economy. Nick first declines the offer, because he is retired and believes he is getting old. But after being persuaded and shown the money is excellent, he consents. Returning to Tony, he is gloomy and melancholy in the police station, lost without Juan, and he also appears to feel terrible for letting Juan wait in the car. Tony's supervisor offers he take some time off to rest and relax, but he declines, because he still feels well. After a while, Juan's pregnant wife arrives. She quickly lashes out at him, and requests that Tony discover and prosecute her husband's killer right away. He reassures her and vows to find the killer. He and his supervisor enter the interrogation room. They both question the dealer they just apprehended. During his interrogation, the dealer claims his huge boss is not your typical supplier, and he is not just delivering items, his boss has enormous ambitions. Surprisingly, the dealer stipulates he will reveal this information in exchange for a lesser sentence. Furthermore, he desires to sleep in a hotel room before being imprisoned. Hearing about these conditions seems absurd. Nonetheless, Tony's supervisors are the cops, and they really need this information, so the dealer obliges. Switching to Nick, who has prepared all of his mission equipment, from firearms to setting up his vehicle, so that no one will recognize him. He rushes to a site when everything is ready, and he already has the target information for his assignment. He quickly pretends to be a commoner, but his gaze is fixed on the hotel where his objective is. Then when the time is right, he dashes to a rooftop across the street from the hotel, carrying his beloved weapon in a golf bag, and begins aiming for his goal. Tony is soon observed arriving at the hotel, to pick up the dealer, to be hauled back to the prison cell, indicating that Nick is aiming for the dealer who is sitting in the hotel. Nick doesn't let up on his aim, until Tony calls the dealer out to enter the vehicle. Eventually, Nick kills the dealer with one shot. Tony, who is standing alongside him, is plainly astonished, because he hadn't expected such an incident. He instantly hurries to the shooter's estimated location, coinciding with Nick, who has just arrived. The two of them pass each other, but Tony has no idea about the gunman. The police lose their informant. This doesn't last long, however, because Tony's superiors receive information from the spy, who fears that the dealer is part of a network of a group that is now suspected of conducting transactions in a location. Tony is directed to maintain an eye on the group. He hastens to finish his work after hearing this. They begin to observe the movement via CCTV, but Tony can't hear anything, because the security camera has been hacked into. He decides to go immediately to the place dressed as a buyer, after feeling it doesn't help much, because he can't comprehend the dialogue. He is supposedly only invited to sit and communicate outside the group's room when he arrives, because his room is just for purchasers or special customers. So Tony racks his brain for additional options. Finally, he thinks a female cook there who could assist him. When the chef comes out, Tony immediately follows her, and approaches her to introduce himself. The woman makes it clear she wants to be left alone, and goes away. When he receives this refusal, he immediately identifies himself as a police officer, and only wants to converse momentarily. They meet because the woman, Mina, finally agrees to speak. Tony states unequivocally that he requires Mina's assistance in installing a recording device, in the VIP room where Mina works. She initially declines, because she is terrified of losing her job if she is caught doing this. However, she agrees to assist him after persuasion. He returns to his colleagues, who are on standby to watch the CCTV cameras again after the meeting, and on Mina's camera, she has begun carrying out the action of storing the recording device that Tony has given her. A few moments later, a group of individuals enter the building, but presumably change rooms. Thus, Mina's efforts are futile, because their conversation can still not be heard. At the same time, it appears that Nick is keeping an eye on the same location, and shortly, he wears a head covering and accesses the location through a back road that no one knows about. It is discovered that there is a man named Rafi in the gang. He is meeting with a scientist to develop a strategy. As the dealer puts it, Rafi is more than just a supplier, he has plans to destroy the American economy. Rafi then collaborates with the scientist, who demonstrates his clever equipment that can switch off the electricity in a metropolis with a single tap on his phone. Shortly afterwards, others who were interested in discussing their various ideas unexpectedly enter and shoot them. As a result, several of Rafi's men are killed instantly, while Rafi and the scientist are able to secure themselves and flee unharmed. Tony returns to the location some time after the riot, but he has to bite his nails because there is no one there, only a handful of Rafi's guys who died in the incident. Rafi appears to be in a panic, and he now requests the scientist finish the device in media. The scientist also replies he will promptly develop and complete his complex tool, but only if he is paid a larger amount. Rafi doesn't mind, and accepts right away when he hears these conditions. His brother appears throwing a party there on another day. He seems to have invited a large number of attendees to the celebration. Tony is also actively looking for Rafi's location. Tony doesn't hesitate to inquire about his brother Rafi's whereabouts, but the brother is unaware. Rafi and his guys, including the large man who killed Juan, are keeping an eye on the celebration. Tony, who is present at the celebration, appears to be recognized by the big man. He informs Rafi that Tony is a dealer who raided his office. Rafi instantly orders his soldiers to punish him. Aside from that, Tony meets Mina at the party, who turns out to be a chef. Not only that, he notices Nick's presence after a while. He loses him when he tries to check, and goes looking for him, and tries to pursue him down with Mina, but in the process, loses track of Nick. Tony's failure to catch up with Nick compels him to attempt to return to Tony. Kitty appears to be on standby, where he lost track of Nick, and after a long wait, he sees Nick's car pass in front of him. Tony quickly catches up to him and stops him. Tony is astonished when he approaches Nick and asks for his identification. It turns out that Nick is his biological father, who had abandoned him a long time ago. Nick requests Tony visit him at his pier apartment when his identity is discovered. Tony instantly inquires why he abandoned him when he was a kid. Nick describes his motive honestly, claiming he was a government contract murderer. So when he learned that Tony had been murdered by Nick's adversary, he decided to abandon him for the sake of his son's protection. Tony seems to understand and accept this explanation. Apart from that, Nick says the mission he is currently carrying out is the same as Tony's, tracking down Rafi and his organization, who have intentions to cripple the American economy. He then leaves after a lengthy talk between the father and son. When they are preparing to leave, Nick hands Tony his phone, so they can connect. It doesn't take long for Rafi to notice that Tony is being monitored. These men, it can now be seen, ambush Tony and take him, while Nick can only fall down and be attacked by them. Tony is being held captive at Rafi's headquarters. Rafi also inquires the name of the individual who murdered his people. Tony casually states it was the fault of his biological father. Rafi instructs his guys to beat Tony before killing him, after witnessing his courageous style. Meanwhile, Nick is spotted on his way to Tony's house. He learned the location from the phone he had handed to Tony, which had been configured to link to his phone. Arriving with the promise of flying hours as a killer, Nick pushes his way in, and kills several of Rafi's men, saving Tony, and transporting him directly to his apartment for treatment, while Rafi manages to flee with the big man. The police arrive shortly after Nick's assault. The cops also discover some of Rafi's guys have died there. Rafi's tools, which were to be employed in Rafi's evil scheme, are also discovered by the cops. He is arrested right away by the police. Tony receives a call from Mina at that moment. It turns out Mina is now being held hostage by the big man. His voice is heard, demanding Tony come to him right away, if he wants Mina to be safe. Tony is about to rush there, when Nick urges him to be watchful, and they are soon on location. Rafi's men aim their rifles at Mina when Tony approaches alone. They bargain, and he requests that Tony accompany his father there. While they are pointing at each other, Nick shoots the man and is met by Tony. The son and father's unity succeeds in putting pressure on Rafi's subordinates, who eventually ask Nick to locate Rafi. They also tell Nick where Rafi is, but they have to pay for it. They also agree to devise a strategy for reaching Rafi. Meanwhile, the scientist is present at Rafi's home, on purpose to request payment in advance for the initial project of his invention. Rafi becomes enraged upon hearing this, because the tool is now in the hands of the cops. He uses a gunshot to go through the scientist's skull instead of money to pay. Rafi's brother, who happens to be nearby, apparently witnesses his sad behavior, which startles him, because he did not expect to see Rafi so nasty. Not long after, the big man appears, holding Nick as if he had captured him. He also shows Rafi the body bag, but when Rafi opens the bag, Tony is ready to point his gun. Rafi and his crew are trapped, and ordered to carry out an attack, but Nick and Tony are on guard and dispatch them immediately. Rafi's men are defeated, who have turned traitors, and demand assurances from Nick and Tony regarding their payment, but they both clearly do not pay them. Soon, the police arrive, and their mission is effective in thwarting the huge scheme. Tony and his father are seen hanging together at his wharf apartment, a few years later. Tony turns out to be married to Mina, and has already had a child. Similarly, grandfather Nick, who already has a young wife there, suggests they all move to a more pleasant location, because he has a lot of money. Soon, Nick receives a call from his government partner, regarding a new mission, with considerably higher pay. The end. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. Turn on the notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out.